Hello and welcome back to the Vinyl Brotherhood, where we like to kick back, take it easy, and just chat about music, whether it be the latest and greatest new releases or old favorites from years gone by. Right on time for everyone's favorite holiday, we'll be reviewing Snail Mail's 2021 album titled Valentine. It's going to be a really interesting time, I guarantee it, because I have some opinions, some hot takes that I'd like to run by you. So sit back, relax, take it easy, and we'll get started here momentarily. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us yet again for another album review. We hope this video finds you in great spirits. As you know, Valentine's Day is upon us, and we thought it'd be cool to review something that was on theme, and naturally, today's selection is one of late 2021's most buzzed about records, Valentine by Snail Mail, the musical endeavor of one Lindsey Jordan. She's been a notable act in recent years with a very successful debut record in 2018, and the hype has grown exponentially leading up to and following the release of this album right here. I don't really listen to much Snail Mail. I stumbled across a couple singles off of Lush a few years back, and I liked them, but that's about the extent of my Snail Mail knowledge. I went into this album blind a few days back, so it's new to me, and I hope you'll be able to appreciate a fresh perspective on it. So, what do we think of Valentine? Does it live up to the Vinyl Brotherhood's lofty standard? I guess we'll find out the answers to these questions together, but first things first, we need to take our LP over to the record player.
When did you start seeing her? 'Cause somebody finally tamed you. Never seen you look so sure. Sorrow snuck into our secret place. Drag me with you to Nirvana, baby.
Here's our artwork. Lindsey Jordan, dressed to the nines. Pretty straightforward. On the back, wilted flowers. So that kind of lets you know what kind of album we're getting into. She looks strangely familiar. I can't place it. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't know if it's someone from my personal life or someone famous, but it's driving me insane. But anyway, something tells me that many of us have had maybe happier Valentine's Days in recent years in Snail Mail. Our lovelorn guide, Lindsey, takes us through this journey of misconnections and unrequited affections, and using indie guitar rock as a foundation, she and the band expand upon it with keys, string sections, and a generous variety of guitar tones pulling from decades past. And you know, it's not the most high energy up-tempo experience. It's pretty laid back and moody as a whole, which I'm perfectly down with. It's an album for a time and a place. I guess we can work our way down the track listing now. Valentine starts out strong with the title track. It opens up kind of moody and ambiguous before the drums kick in and things start to fall into place. The cool retro synthesizers are quite intriguing, adding some texture and depth to the arrangement. And that classic pop guitar tone, it's also a nice addition to the stylistic hodgepodge on this song. Or maybe hodgepodge isn't the right word. I feel like there's a negative connotation there that suggests recklessness or messiness, which isn't true of Valentine, the song or the album. The instrumentals on this record are meticulously arranged and thoughtful and full of a lot of nice surprises. Track 2, Ben Franklin, is a nice fusion of indie rock and modern pop. The composition is on point, and again, it seems like the arrangement is always doing something really interesting. You sort of get the feeling that this song was a lot of fun to put together. I love that guitar passage that plays during the bridge as well. It's a small thing, but it feels inspired and out of the box. Headlock is a little more guitar-driven, featuring some timeless and classic clean guitar tones that anyone who loves Midwest emo can warm up to. Melodically and vocally, I think Headlock features some of Lindsey's best work on the album. There's a mood she's capturing very well, and the melody showcases the nice breathiness of the high notes and the fantastic tone on her lower notes. We find Forever, or Sailing in parentheses, around the halfway point, and at the time of reviewing, this is probably my favorite song on the album. I think the keyboards take the song above and beyond. I love how they're written, I love the 80s appeal, and I love the smooth, relaxed pace of the song. Although some of the lyrics even struck me as somewhat Swiftian, and I haven't decided whether that's a compliment or a negative. At times, I get the feeling that there's still some growing to do in regards to her lyrical voice. Occasionally, the lyrics seem a bit uneven, maybe a line or two in a song come across as too reliant on cliches, and by the other extreme, sometimes they feel too clever for their own good. She's generally a good lyricist, and it's a very difficult skill to develop, but in my opinion, they could have come across a little more naturally. The next song, Madonna, plays around with dissonance a little bit, with his loosey-goosey guitar leading the verse that pops out of an otherwise very tight arrangement. It makes things really cool, really interesting, and it's well accompanied by a somewhat tumultuous lyric that utilizes a lot of religious metaphors. I think the vocal melody on this one is especially cool. There's plenty of movement therein, and it goes places that I wasn't really expecting, which is always welcome. And that may actually be one of the album's all-around strengths. Glory is a nice straightforward indie rock number akin to something from the 90s. I like Glory. It's interesting because it really sounds like Lindsay's playing to her strengths here, and the song is all the better for it. It's not the most original thing out there, but you can hear the band's investment, and it's nicely executed with one reservation. It's a little anticlimactic. It wrapped up a bit before I was ready for it to. Circa et al., a soft acoustic number with nifty guitar work, is quite frankly, well, I've honestly never loved this song template, and I feel like I've been subjected to it a time too many over the years. The overly precious, folksy singer-songwriter thing has never really been my cup of tea, and yet artists in this sphere just insist upon it. Maybe because it's a quick recording session, I don't know. If you find yourself really needing an acoustic slow jam from Snail Mail, I'd like to direct you to Light Blue, which appears earlier on the album, track 3. It's a stronger entry in my humble opinion, so let's take a look at this album as a whole now. It's a very competently made, very well-produced album. It sounds expensive and top tier. My only concern is that maybe some of the polish could have sucked out some of the personality of the composition or the performances. There is some grit and some craziness here and there, and yet it all feels somewhat controlled. But hey, you can't say that Valentine doesn't have mass appeal. It's a really easy listen, and most wouldn't find it objectionable. And while feeling cohesive, there's still enough shifts in style to keep things interesting and broaden that target audience a little. To be perfectly honest, I feel like I could have described Valentine to you without having listened to a second of it. The early 20s sad indie girl is super in vogue right now, and it seems like a million of these have been propped up by the industry and the press. And not to say that these individuals, and especially not Snail Mail, I'm not saying that they're not without their merit. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. It's just that every decade seems to have its trends and its sounds, and me, well, I've seen the patterns. The 80s had synth pop duos, and the 2020s have sad indie girl who grew up listening to emo and pop punk. All that to say that of the several who have come out of the woodwork, Snail Mail may be my favorite. Valentine is totally headed in the right direction, and maybe on the next go around, she'll take further steps to set herself apart from her contemporaries and perhaps transcend the cultural zeitgeist. So I've got a few final thoughts. Let's head on back to our living area and we'll wrap things up. So what are my final thoughts on Valentine? I think it's a solid entry that demonstrates a lot of Lindsay Jordan's growth as a songwriter, but also leaves room for further exploration in the future. Tons of potential there, but generally speaking, while the album is pleasant, and I'll probably look back at it with fondness, I feel like all I got was more of a love tap when it was going for a punch. I think Lindsay is a true talent and has the ever-coveted it factor, but a good handful of these songs don't live up to their promise, or at least they didn't for me. But either way, it's a harmless listen if you're at all intrigued, and I've already pointed out the couple of bangers that you need to listen to, so I think it's time to give Valentine a score. Let's get a drum roll going, and the official Vinyl Brotherhood score for Snail Mail's Valentine is a 7 out of 10. After 5 or 6 listens, I'm comfortable with my decision, so that's that. It's a fine album indeed, and I can see myself pulling up a track or two for a listen in the future. But enough about me. What did you think of Valentine? Feel free to let us know in the comments below. I'd be very interested in reading all the hot takes as well as the ice cold ones. Also, like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. it'd be very much appreciated. And I guess that's all we got for today. So thank you so much for your time and for being the best audience. Have a happy Valentine's Day and a great week. And we'll see you again soon right here at the Vinyl Brotherhood.